Hello, I'm Gus Downing, publisher and editor of the D&D Daily, and we're here today with Tony Caccioppoli, Vice President, Corporate Asset Protection for Hudson's Bay Company, and Pat McEvoy, Senior Director of Asset Protection Administration for Hudson's Bay Company. Today's session is entitled Developing Technology's Impact on Emergency Preparedness. In today's connected world where everyone is seeing everything that happens worldwide in almost real time, and groups have the ability to communicate anywhere and anytime, we have consumers in the stores, people in the malls, and on the streets that are reacting to virtually anything, and at any moment, you could have a crowd in your store hiding, running, shoplifting, or protesting, and it can happen in minutes. We also have more violent incidents, civil protests, robberies, and disruptive weather than ever before. And emergency preparedness is even more critical now than probably ever before. In the recent National Retail Security Survey, it showed that while training and awareness campaigns have declined, active shooter training has increased, showing a real concern nationwide about emergency preparedness, even in difficult times. Every retailer has an emergency preparedness and crisis management program, with the larger retailers having their own emergency operations centers, a few of which actually rival some government agencies. In today's session, we'll be talking about how technology is playing a vital role in helping retailers with their emergency preparedness and crisis management programs, and how combined in future technology will drive even more proactive and real-time responses and hopefully help keep our stores, associates, and customers safe. With that, I'd like to welcome Tony and Pat. Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. Tony, with all the flagship stores you have all over North America, I mean, you've got to be very concerned and prepared for a lot of these incidents. Like you said recently with me, there's only so much training you can do. I mean, you've got to rely on technology to help proactively, and can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, you know, as you said, we all have some rather robust programs in place. But with what's going on in society today, we talk about ORC and all of that theft activity. To me, that's a cost of doing business. What I'm concerned, what keeps me up at night, is what you've been seeing the last couple of weeks over in the UK. And I dread the day when that activity goes from the street to inside an environment, into a shopping mall or into one of my flagships. So I love what a lot of my peers are doing in the industry. I love what the Gap did with their active threat training program. I told Keith I was going to replicate it for a department store environment, and it did quite well. We trained over 40,000 associates within all of HBC in North America. But I'm still concerned, what could I do better? I still need an edge. Law enforcement and the intelligence community can control that activity. I don't expect to control or prevent it, but can I have an edge? Is there some type of technology out there today, some type of analytics through the smart cameras and the smart technology that Pat puts into my stores that'll give me some type of notice that there's an anomaly of activity in a particular area within the store or maybe right outside the store? And then do I react to that quicker? And can I mitigate whatever that threat is? Might not prevent it, but how do I respond appropriately to mitigate whatever is you know, the aftermath of that? So Patrick is the one who really I sent out into the field. This is a great environment to be in, where everybody's talking about the latest mousetrap that they have. Some of it is applicable. We're in the infancy stages of that technology. Conceptually, I think it could help. It could help us. I think it'll help the law enforcement community at some point in time. So I want to be one of those guinea pigs within reason to try and say, okay, I have something that's different, and how do we perfect that?
You know, Pat, you handle the technology piece, as Tony just said, I mean, and stay up to date with the advancements. Can you give us a picture of where it is today and where it's going in the future?
Yeah, so I think we as retailers, to Tony's point, it's a change of mindset, right? So now we go out and we should be pushing the manufacturers, the vendor community to say, give us solutions that start addressing this specific type of issue, this specific type of threat. And realistically, you can even look to law enforcement, you can look to what schools and colleges are doing and find products there and maybe tweak them to make them serve in our purpose. So I think one of the big things that we've identified Big one that we're seeing a lot of, I know it's big in law enforcement, is shooter detection or gunshot detection devices, right? So they're basically an audible device that is mounted throughout a store environment, and they can detect a gunshot. And this technology is at a point now where the chance of a false alarm, like a broom hitting the floor or something like that, is almost nil. So they are able to dial it down into an actual gunshot. And so, to Tony's point earlier, we're trying to mitigate a threat, right? So now if I have that, instead of me sitting in an AP office and wondering what's happening on the floor, only looking at what I can see on the cameras, now I'm getting that technology, or I'm getting that information pushed to me, right? So we have an incident goes on and gunshot fires off in store, that thing triggers an alarm, that video is sent, that alarm is sent to my operator. That operator now is that much quicker to start reacting and going through a procedure to mitigate that threat, right? So that's a big one. Another big thing, so everybody keeps talking analytics. There's tons of people out there selling all kinds of analytics, right? So what we looked at is this kind of unusual object detection or unusual motion detection, right? So it's that old motion analytic with the AI on top of it. So you're taking that smart camera, that IP camera, and now you're laying on an analytic that starts to understand traffic flow in your store or in the area of the focus of the camera, right? So what that camera now does is it says, okay, this is the usual incident. I know traffic always flows at a certain pace in a certain way throughout this particular camera shot. So now all of a sudden, if we have a group of people run through or a group comes together in that particular camera shot, that camera is now sending that information again to the operator and saying something's unusual. As an operator, I could say, you know what, that's okay. I understand why it's there. But now I'm that much quicker to identifying what it is.
Like people running versus walking, or
exactly,
yeah,
right? Because again, if we just took active shooter, I mean, obviously there's implication of shooting, but from what we've seen, it might be a knife, it might be something simple as a protest. So, you can't always just layer on one thing and say that's going to be the end-all be-all solution.
So actually, it can identify someone carrying a sign, so to speak?
No, it's actually what's doing is kind of understanding what's in the norm on a camera shot, and then kind of looking at what's outside of that norm, right? The simplest thing, again, is if a crowd grows, right? So traffic kind of flows at a certain point. All of a sudden, people start running the opposite direction. That's going to be unusual. And again, there might be a reason for it. But now, as an operator, I'm that much quicker to identify because it's now coming to me, right? And I can now make a decision on whether that's appropriate, not appropriate, or why I know why it's occurring. And then the last thing, and this came really from the universities, school districts, and even some law enforcement, is, okay, so we do a lot of things at training when something happens. So the thought process is, what can we do to kind of understand it before, right? Is there some kind of intelligence that we can get ahead of the time? So, a big thing out of the last couple of years has been social media intelligence, right? So that is, it's a couple of different forms from different providers, and it's used for different purposes. But the whole idea would be simply, if I could take known threat terms, bomb, gun, explosion, kill, whatever, and mix it with data that's pertinent to my retailer, locations, people, the brand names, now am I getting an alert? And again, listen, I'm not saying it's going to catch everybody or everybody's going to post, hey, I'm going to go shoot up Saks,
right.
or shoot up whatever.
Right.
But if they do, now I have it's another tool that gives me that advanced information, so I can react differently. And I can take a different physical security approach, or
like a group on a flash mob talking about it,
exactly.
30 minutes before they do it, a mile away from the store.
Exactly. And again, listen, we're talking about the worst case scenario, active shooter scenario.
Right.
But again, ORC group, flash mobs, protests.
Right.
Again, is there a way that can be used to provide additional information?
Any way to get a digital signature off some of that from the device itself?
So obviously there's a little bit of a privacy section to all this, right? So again, I think we have to be smart. I mean, again, I think we could probably go and say there's a lot of stuff we could get.
Sure.
But does that put us in a situation where it now hurts us because now we don't get that information anymore because we're not using it for the right purposes, right? So I think you have to strike that balance. But I think it's a very effective tool.
But is biometrics coming to the retail industry? I mean, from that standpoint?
So everybody talks facial recognition,
Right.
Right. So listen, I think it's there. There's a lot of providers. It's a very specific technology, but I think it's there. And I think if you can work closely with a good provider who knows their stuff and they can understand your environment and how it operates, it absolutely can work.
Right.
But it's a very specific.
Well, and they've also got gait recognition, behavior recognition. I mean, they're already using that online all over the place from a behavior recognition standpoint, and also they're rolling out the facial recognition virtually everywhere. You know, it's just that the retail industry is kind of like the tail on the dog. I mean, we're the last ones that can use anything, but yet we're the first ones that drove CCTVs out there in the world, you know. So it's kind of a shame that we can't at least start taking advantage of some of the benefits there to create a safer store.
Totally agree.
And I think, as Patrick said earlier, we have to work with these providers to truly customize it for our environment.
Mm-hmm.
So how do I get a robust program without creating any types of potential litigation, exposure to my organization, while at the same time mitigating risk?
Right, right.
And mitigating risk sooner rather than later.
Well, and it's a matter of positioning it so that, you know, the retail industry, it's defined more. The boundaries become more defined about, you know, privacy and what's the definition of it and how long can you retain a certain file or data and how you protect it. And once those standards are established, because quite frankly, we don't have any standards there right now as an industry or as a country. We don't have the standards yet. They're working on them, but it's certainly going to be a while.
Yeah, you know, some of these incidents that took place recently overseas, one country told another country, watch out for Tony, he's coming, he's coming your way. You know, can facial recognition be something that I have a data dump in there that tells me these people are on watch list? You know, and that person walks into my store in the flagship during the holiday season at Rockefeller Center.
Right, right.
You know, and I get a heads up on that.
Right.
And I take whatever the appropriate action would be.
Yeah, but in most cases, though, what they've discussed is even if you identify it, you can't do anything because they have to break the law in order to stop them. So where is the line there? I mean, you may know that they're walking through the store, but, you know, they're walking through the store. They haven't done anything.
They haven't done anything, but I would rather know that that person who has potential ill intentions is there.
That you're walking behind them.
Yeah. So, and then we do a couple of unique things in some of our flagship locations with our law enforcement partners who are part of our program to help us mitigate that risk right away and to immediately react to that risk. So it's not just my team, it's the partnership that I have with the law enforcement community throughout the country.
Do you think that facial recognition will ever be widely accepted in the industry? Do you think it's inevitable 10 years, 15 years from now?
I think the issue is the privacy issue. And as long as we allow that to be the issue, that'll always be the stall gate, if you will. You know, I'm not looking for privacy information. I'm looking for your personal information. I just want to know that you're a potential problem for me and you're now in my building. I'm not looking to tap into your phone. I'm not looking to get any of your personal information and store that.
Well, we've got a long way to go to get there.
I think so. You know, but unfortunately, it's unfortunate incidents that I think will allow society to drive and accept some of these practices.
Yeah, it is.
Because it's in our best interest.
Well, I think one day as well, it'll almost be an expectation that you offer it as a way to, you know, guarantee, or not guarantee, but at least improve safeness in the store so the customer feels that safety and that safeness. But gentlemen, thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Well, that's it for this episode, ladies and gentlemen. We'd like to thank you for watching, and until next time, let's keep them all safe out there.